Welcome back to This Week. Time now to get the views of our media and political experts, national attorney and Democratic operative Larry Woods, and heard daily on 1510 WLAC syndicated talk show host Steve Gill. Welcome, gentlemen. We saw some discussion about Governor Ned McWherter. We both knew him pretty well. Give me your thoughts. What's his legacy going to be?
Powerful personality that attracted everybody, whether they agreed with him or not. 10 care. He's the guy that really originated and started it. And while I know Governor McWherter talked a lot about schools, I don't know, that was really Attorney Louis Donaldson out of Memphis that pushed that agenda on to McWherter. I'd say 10 care and really understanding how to make government work.
I think he was a guy who was a tough politician. I mean, he could play hardball behind closed doors, whether as House Speaker or as governor. He could get the job done. But he was also a people person, as he said, and had the ability to work across the aisle and knock heads on his own team and knock heads across the other side. I think he was a giant of a guy, not just in physical stature, but left a big shadow that's going to carry over in Tennessee for a long time.
Senator Lamar Alexander said this when he was elected governor, that Ned McWherter offered him his hand and said, if you succeed, I succeed. Now, Ned McWherter was a partisan politician, but as you said, he saw the need and when it was important to cross those aisles, and he did that well.
We talked a little bit earlier today that the other thing he had was an honesty that we find so missing in so many politicians these days that talk out of both sides of their mouth. They'll tell you one thing, tell the other guy the next thing. If he told you, look, I'm with you, or I'm against you, or I'm not going to block you on this, but I'm not going to help you on this, you could take it to the bank. And I know Lamar Alexander says that's what he would do.
A lot of times, Ned Ray McWherter wouldn't tell you because he didn't want to get caught in a squeeze. And as Steve says, he really was a man who did what he committed to. So sometimes he wouldn't commit. But I can remember when he first came in as governor in, I guess, January '87, he and outgoing Governor Lamar Alexander worked out a deal, a backroom deal, typical, traditional, about who's going to get to stay in the administration, who's going to get their walking papers the next day. And McWherter was smart enough to get Alexander to step up and let go some of the people that McWherter didn't want to take the hit on.
Ned McWherter was shrewd. He played that backwoods politician, but he was a smart man. Former President Clinton, former Vice President Gore going to be here for his memorial this week. He advised both of them on their presidential campaigns and when Bill Clinton was president.
And ahead of his time, I think, he was a guy who really understood the media and how to use the media to his advantage. Again, you would think he's a state representative, he becomes House Speaker, governor, but he knew how to work the media to communicate his message every step of the way. And a lot of times you got folks in this era that aren't as good as his
I remember when Governor McWherter and Speaker McWherter said, the door is always open for the media. I'll have meetings with my political pals and enemies, and we'll discuss everything from personnel to public policy, and the media is welcome to sit in there and listen. Well, I know some meetings went on that didn't happen that way, but that was such a great brand, a great image for McWherter. I'm not a backroom politician. I welcome the light of publicity, media, public attention. It wasn't necessarily totally true, but it was a great, great opportunity.
He'll be remembered, he'll be missed. We tape this on Fridays, and so we don't know yet, but it looks like more and more the government is going to shut down at midnight tonight, this being Friday. If that happens, what really happens? I mean, obviously some things will end, but is this really partisan bickering over an issue? It looks like it's the funding of Planned Parenthood as opposed to the bigger picture.
I think it's bickering over some of the social issues, and they are important. Steve and I probably disagree on them, but what it means politically is the Tea Party is going to get a huge shot in the arm. They're already doing well. They're going to take the credit for closing down the government. And in part, that's true. I think the Tea Party Republicans have leaned on Boehner and the other Republican leadership not to work out a compromise. Some of my Democrats have leaned on the president and the Senator Reid not to work out a compromise. We had a 26-day shutdown in 1994-95. I barely remember it. So if they shut down 26 days again, am I going to remember it a year from now? I think it's going to have some real economic bad effects, and I think it's going to boost the Tea Party in the next presidential election.
I think it's pretty shameful, in part because you've got the Democrats in the Senate who for 18 months have not passed a budget. They didn't pass one last year. We're in the middle of this one. Even in this budget negotiation, the House has passed a budget deal. The Senate has not. Where's their bill? I think worse than that is the fact that our military men and women are not going to get paid during the shutdown, while members of Congress, members of the White House staff, the president himself will get paid. The fact that our soldiers won't get paid while these guys are getting paid is disgusting.
We'll see what happens. Steve Gill, Larry Woods, appreciate your time. Stay with us. This week continues in a moment.